Here's one from Isa Bittel in Germany. She says, hello, dear Brad and team. I am glad I have a chance asking some questions, as I'm doing the emotion code for quite some time in sessions 1-by-1 as well as in groups. I'm a psychotherapist working in groups, and I have the point of view that my patients should be able to care for themselves as fast as possible to get out of the feeling of helplessness and victimhood. They read your book about the emotion code, and we learn to use the muscle test. We also work in front of all the others, but they also do the emotion code at home for themselves. We usually see enormous changes in mood and symptoms, but in some cases I've realized that the patients seem to get strange answers, and when I join the process, I usually get other results than they do. I usually don't do proxy testing with my patients. I support the patients with holding my hand on their shoulders, and we usually sway together back and forward. Okay, so what she's doing is she's standing right next to them and kind of putting her arm across them, and then they ask the question kind of together, and then they sway together forward or back, which is interesting, and she certainly do that. It's a great thing to watch how we usually get the same answers, but in some maybe more severe cases, I believe that the answers from the patients might be more part of their self-sabotaging system. Their subconscious tells them something different than to me. For example, by questioning how many emotions are trapped in the heart wall. Okay, and we just talked about that. Some have some hundreds or even more than 1,000, and usually I prefer to follow the answers I get, and then sometimes something great might be happening. That's why I trust answers given to me more than those of the patient. And I think that in a lot of the cases, that's the rule. You want to trust the answers that you get more than those that the patient is getting in a lot of cases. I mean, most of the time it's probably fine. But she says, and why I believe it could be self-sabotaging what my patients or clients are experiencing. Okay, so yes, it's hard. Of course, somebody that's brand new to this, as most of you know, we're all brand new to this at some point. And I remember when I was first learning how to do the muscle testing, I didn't think I could do it. I just didn't. It just seemed too subjective to me. Okay, and I couldn't tell. Well, am I doing this? Are the answers coming out of my own mind, or am I really getting answers here? I couldn't tell, but I stuck with it. Okay, and it took me a couple of weeks, and I was trying to do about 100 tests a day, just doing yes, no, okay, and after a couple of weeks, it started to fall into place, and I started to be able to get it. But yes, I would say, in a case like this, trust your answers as the practitioner more than the answers that the client is getting. Okay, and then here's another question: how can we get rid of the resistance in those patients that are sabotaging themselves? Well, could the patient start with asking, do I have trapped emotions self-sabotaging my answers? But how can we trust this answer? Well, what you do is you trust yourself, and you ask questions like that. Are there trapped emotions that are interfering with your ability to get answers? Now, another thing that we talk about in the body code is how people can sometimes be inverted, okay? And just really quickly, what happens is to people, and this idea I actually originally got with from Dr. David Hawkins, who wrote Power versus Force. In his book, he talks about the music of the day and how that music tends to drive a person down the scale of consciousness until they get to a point where they become inverted, where their values become inverted, and they will test strong for bad things and weak for good things. And if that's the case, then what you'll do is you'll find post-hypnotic suggestions that have been actually put into their mind as they're listening to a lot of the music of the day is actually really negative and really bad. And you can find and release those and delete those post-hypnotic suggestions, and that's one of the things that we talk about in the body code. So you might ask, in a situation like this, if someone is getting bad answers, that's one thing you could ask. Do you have post-hypnotic suggestions that are creating this? And if you've got the body code, then you can dig those out and get rid of those. And it can really make a big change. In fact, I experienced this just recently with my son, who is 15. Of course, he listens to a lot of the music of the day, even though I try to talk to him about it and point things out to him. And if I'm ever with him and he's listening to music that's that's not good, I can test it and tell him, hey, this music this doesn't test good because it's just an energy, it's a frequency. But I had to clear recently from him 3 of these post-hypnotic suggestions, and he was really just acting out of sorts. It was like he was under a dark cloud, and not himself at all. And I found that he had 3 of these post-hypnotic suggestions. Now, Dr. Hawkins says that these post-hypnotic suggestions will lead you to a life of depression and suicidal tendencies your whole life. And so this is not unusual. Here's what we found on him, okay? If I can remember all 3 of these. One of them was, I'll kill myself, okay? Now, this is a kid that's just, he's a really happy-go-lucky kid, but all of a sudden last week, he just was feeling really down. And so that's what I found. I'll kill myself. I also found there is no God, was another statement. And these are statements in the subconscious that you can find and get rid of using the body code. Another one was, my parents hate me, okay? So by clearing those, it really made a huge difference for him. And there were some other things we worked on with him too, but I think that was one of the really major things.